The Wayfarer's Grace drifted toward the outer edge of Terran space like a ghost returning home after an impossible journey. For decades, the ship had been nothing more than a name in old records, a proud explorer vessel launched in humanity's early starfaring years, then lost without a trace. People had spoken of it the way they spoke of ancient legends. Some said it had fallen into a star. Others believed pirates had taken it. A few claimed it had slipped into some unknown dimension. But no one expected it to ever be seen again. Now, the ship floated quietly in open space, its long solar sails torn and hanging in shredded strips. They looked as though something with claws, massive claws, had ripped through the reinforced material with monstrous strength. The hull carried deep scratches, long marks that traveled across metal panels like signs of a great struggle. Captain Aaron Holt watched the drifting vessel from the viewport of the Terran vanguard ship Resolute. His crew stood behind him in tense silence. Holt was a man known for calm under pressure, but even he felt a cold weight settling in his chest as he studied the damaged sails. Something about those marks felt wrong, not frightening in a normal way, but unsettling in a deeper place of the mind where instinct whispered the possibility of a predator unseen. This should not be possible, Lieutenant Mara Ventor said quietly. She was scanning the derelict ship with a handheld sensor. The Grace has been missing for 32 years. There's no signs of propulsion, life support, or even automated systems. How is it here? Aaron didn't answer right away. He stared at the sails again. Torn, clawed, shredded. He finally said, "We will know when we go in." The team prepared for boarding. 6 members, all trained for deep space environmental hazards. They wore light frame exosuits, not bulky armor. The ship was old and delicate, and they didn't want to cause further damage. As they moved through preparation checks, a soft unease spread through the crew, but no one said a word about it. Professionals did not show fear, even when fear whispered behind every thought. The docking clamps attached to the Wayfarer's Grace with a soft metallic thud. A thin mist of frozen air drifted from the old airlock as it opened. The smell of ancient metal and stale atmosphere spilled out, cold enough to bite the nose. The internal lights of the ship were dead. Absolute darkness waited beyond. Holt activated his helmet lamp and stepped inside. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing dust particles floating in the air like tiny silver stars. The corridors had once been white and clean, designed with an early-era Terran style full of optimism. Now they were covered with scratches, long, shallow marks, some curved, some straight, all carved into the walls. They did not look like tool marks or structural damage. They looked like something alive had dragged claws across the metal. Mara swallowed. "Captain, I don't like this." "Stay focused," Holt said firmly. "We don't know what happened yet." They moved forward slowly, scanning everything. The deeper they went, the more damage they saw. A door had been bent inward, as if something massive had slammed against it. Panels were broken and hanging. A long trail of gouges ran down one side of a hallway, stopping at a sealed bulkhead. "Radiation levels are normal," Engineer Dresden reported. "No chemical traces. But I'm detecting dried biological matter in several places. Not human. Keep samples," Holt said. The team kept moving until they reached the cryopod chamber. When they stepped inside, every person froze. The chamber held 20 cryopods. They were all destroyed. Not shattered from pressure, not melted. The pods had been broken open from the outside. Claw marks tore through the reinforced glass. Some pods were empty, others still held remains withered, dried, and ancient. The bodies inside looked like they had been pulled apart. Mara covered her mouth with a trembling hand. "Captain, what could do this?" Holt didn't answer. He felt a deep chill running down his spine, but he forced his voice to remain steady. "Record everything." The silence inside the chamber felt heavy, as if the ship itself remembered the terror that had ended its crew. Dresden approached a terminal, wiping dust away. "Maybe I can recover logs. The power core is dead, but I can pull memory fragments." Holt nodded. "Do it." While Dresden worked, the others spread out. The chamber was wide and circular, designed to support long-term voyages, but all hope of peaceful exploration had died here decades ago. Something caught Holt's eye on the far wall. A message scratched into the metal with shaky, desperate lines. He moved closer, brushing his gloved hand across the rough surface. The words were simple but filled with dread. We were not alone. They followed us. They are hungry. Mara read it and stepped back. Captain, this is not pirate work. This is something else. Holt looked at the words again and carefully took a hollow image. We keep collecting evidence. Dresden finally said, I have something. Everyone gathered around the flickering display as he projected a partial log. The audio crackled. The image was distorted, showing the face of an exhausted crew member, an old recording, full of static and shaking visuals. If anyone finds this, stay away from the Orion drift. We saw lights moving inside the gravitational field. Thought it was natural, but it wasn't. They came out like shadows pulling themselves into real space. Static. We tried to escape. Every jump. They followed. They tore through the sails. They tore through everything. Static. Don't let them see you. Don't let them smell. The recording cut off. No one spoke for several long seconds. The air felt colder than before. Holt's expression hardened, but his voice remained steady. We continue. They moved deeper into the ship. The hallways became worse. Some areas looked as if they had been torn apart by explosions, but sensors confirmed there had been no fire. The damage was all physical, done by something moving through the ship with massive force. They passed a medical bay where the beds were overturned and cabinets lay open with supplies scattered. There were no signs of normal sickness or panic, only violence. As they turned down a side corridor, the floor showed large dents, as if something heavy had landed again and again, walking or dragging itself along. The dents were spaced irregularly, not matching human footsteps. Something big was here, said Jonah, the team's heavy scout. His deep voice carried a nervous edge. Whatever made those marks, it wasn't small. Mara looked at the ceiling, noticing a long gouge running across the upper panels. Captain, these marks go too high. Higher than any human can reach. Holt studied the marks carefully. They were wide, deep, and they continued all the way down the hall. What if it wasn't walking? Dresden said quietly. What if it was climbing? The idea made everyone tense. The team reached the ship's bridge. The large door was twisted, as if something had grabbed it and pulled with terrible strength. Holt and Jonah forced it open. The bridge was a graveyard of broken consoles and floating debris. The captain's chair had claw marks on both sides, and the large display screen was cracked down the middle. But something else caught their attention. A single cryosuit lay in the center of the bridge. Inside it was a human skeleton, wearing the uniform of the Wayfarer's Grace. Its helmet was cracked. Its hands were still clutching a recording device. Holt approached slowly and knelt. The device was still intact despite the damage around it. He pressed a button, and it began to play. A weak voice filled the air. This is Captain Lyra Dane of the Wayfarer's Grace. Our attempt to escape failed. We entered Slipstream, but they followed us through dimensions. They appeared inside the ship, tearing through walls as if they were nothing. Her voice shook. We tried to hide. We tried to fight. Nothing worked. They are shadows with form, beasts that can fold through space. They watched us, studied us. I think they wanted something more than us. Something we found. Static flickered. To whoever hears this, don't look for us. Don't follow our path. They are still out there. And they remember the taste of our ship. The recording ended. Silence took the room. Finally, Jonah said, Captain, do you think these things are still alive? Hunting? We don't know, Holt said calmly. But we stay alert. Mara shivered. If they followed the ship across dimensions, maybe they can follow again. Holt stood up. His heart was beating faster than normal, but he kept his mind steady. Our job is to gather evidence. We're going to extract all logs, all recordings, and then we leave. But before anyone could respond, the ship around them rumbled. A deep vibration trembled through the metal floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights of their helmets flickered. Captain, Dresden whispered. "There's a spike in gravitational waves. It's coming from outside." Another rumble. Stronger this time. The hull echoed like something massive touched it from the outside. Holt quickly ordered, "All teams, prepare to return to the airlock." They started moving fast, but the ship groaned again, a long, low sound, like a distant roar carried through metal. The Grace seemed alive, trembling under some unseen force. Dresden checked his scanner. His face went pale inside his helmet. "Captain, something is shifting in local space-time." "Explain," Holt demanded. I think something is phasing in. Something big." The team hurried, their boots hitting the metal floor in quick steps. The hallways seemed darker now. Narrower. Like the ship was closing in on them. A sudden, sharp noise echoed behind them. A scrape. Long, slow. Like claws dragging across metal. No one wanted to look. But Holt forced himself to turn. Down the corridor far, but not far enough. The darkness shifted. A shape moved. Large. Wrong. Half there, half not, as if its true form existed somewhere beyond normal sight. Mara gasped. "Captain, what?" "Move," Holt shouted. The team ran toward the airlock, hearts pounding, breaths quick and sharp. Behind them, the scraping grew louder, faster, echoing through every hallway. Another rumble shook the ship. Panels fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered again. They reached the docking point just as the metal behind them dented inward, as if something huge slammed against the wall. They dove into the airlock and sealed it. Jonah slammed the release. The hatch of the Resolute opened, and they stumbled aboard as the clamps detached. The Resolute pulled away. Through the viewport, the Wayfarer's Grace drifted silently again. No movement, no shape, no sign of the creature. But Holt remembered what the recording had said. "They followed us. They are hungry." He didn't know what had awakened when the ship returned, but he knew it was watching, and he knew this was only the beginning. The return to the Resolute did little to calm the crew. Even inside a well-lit and modern ship, everyone carried the cold memory of what moved inside the Wayfarer's Grace. The air felt heavy with unspoken fear. The ship's engines hummed gently, but the sound no longer felt comforting. Instead, it felt like a thin barrier between them and something far older and darker than human understanding. Captain Aaron Holt took a slow breath in the command room, trying to steady his nerves. The Grace was now only a small shape drifting behind them, its torn sails floating like ragged wings. It looked peaceful from a distance, like a strange relic carried by space winds. But Holt knew what hid inside those broken halls, and the memory made his chest tighten. Lieutenant Mara Ventor stood beside him, her hands clasped behind her back. She kept checking the large display in front of them, scanning space for unusual disturbances. She tried to hide her unease, but Holt knew her too well. "You think it followed us?" she said quietly. Holt didn't answer at first. He simply watched the readings appear across the screen: gravitational waves, radiation spikes, light distortions. All normal, all calm. But calm meant nothing anymore. "Something touched the Grace again," he finally said. "Something massive, something that could appear and disappear." Mara nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "And something that didn't want us leaving." They both fell silent. The crew tension grew thicker as more officers entered the room. Engineer Dresden arrived holding a small data drive. Jonah and 2 medics followed soon after, all with anxious expressions. Dresden placed the drive on the center table. "We recovered everything we could from the Grace. Logs, recordings, sensor data. There are fragments missing, but this is the largest collection ever taken from a missing early-era vessel." Holt nodded. "Let's begin." The room dimmed as the data projected into the air, floating images, broken clips, half-complete voice logs. Most were corrupted by time, but some played clearly. A recording showed members of the Grace's crew staring into a strange, deep blue space anomaly. Their voices were excited at first, thrilled by discovery. They talked about gravitational distortions, unusual energy readings, and possible new life forms. Then things changed. Another clip showed the same crew running down a hallway, shouting warnings. The camera shook as something boomed behind them. The recording ended with a flash of darkness and static. More logs appeared, crew debating, turning back, arguing about dangers, talking about seeing moving shadows near the anomaly. Then the captain's voice came through, shaky but calm. The anomaly behaves like a living thing. It reacts to our presence. We may have awakened something. The recording fell silent. Another showed the ship's solar sails being torn apart by invisible force. The Grace spun out of control, alarms blaring, crew members shouting orders. Something hit the hull with incredible force, denting it inward. The lights flickered. The video ended with a scream. When the projection finally stopped, the room was silent. Jonah crossed his arms. I don't think those things were random shadows. Those claws weren't symbols or damage from storms. Something attacked them. Something real. Dresden swallowed hard. And something that didn't follow normal physics. Mara turned to Holt. Captain, we need to warn command. They need to know something dangerous is out here. Holt agreed, but he also felt a knot forming in his stomach. If the creatures could slip between dimensions, if they could follow across slipstream, then sending a message might not be enough. Still, he said, prepare a full report for command. Send it on encrypted channel 43. As the team dispersed to begin their work, Holt remained in the empty room. He stared at the holographic replay of the torn sails from the Grace. He had seen alien threats, before pirates, rogue AI units, hostile fauna, on unexplored planets, but he had never seen something that moved through space like a predator from another realm. He whispered to himself, what did they bring back with them? While the message was being prepared, the Resolute continued its path toward the nearest relay outpost. The crew moved with nervous haste. Extra scanning protocols were activated. Gravitational sensors were checked twice each hour. Even the ship's automated defense system ran quiet diagnostics. Everyone waited. The first sign of trouble came 6 hours later. Mara was on duty when a sharp beep echoed from her console. She leaned forward, eyes sharpening. Captain, sensors are picking up a soft disturbance behind us. Very faint. Like a fold in space. Holt quickly joined her. Show me. A faint ripple appeared on the display, a gentle wave, barely visible. It looked harmless. Almost like natural energy drift. But Holt felt a chill crawl up his spine. Is it from the Grace? He asked. Mara ran a comparison. The signature is almost identical to the distortion we detected moments before something hit the Grace's hull. The bridge fell silent. Jonah hurried inside. I heard the alert. What's happening? Mara didn't look up from her console. We may be followed. Jonah frowned. The Grace is dozens of kilometers behind us. Unless... He stopped mid-sentence, realizing the truth. Dresden checked his handheld scanner nervously. If the creature, or whatever it is, can slip through space, distance may not matter. Holt steadied himself. Increase scanning range. Activate motion sensors on full sensitivity. I want to know everything around us. The crew obeyed. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Then another ripple appeared. Stronger this time. Closer. The lights on the bridge dimmed for a moment, then flickered back to full brightness. A soft vibration ran through the ship's floor. Subtle but real. Mara's voice shook. Captain! That wave didn't come from behind. It came from the side. Starboard. Show me starboard view, Holt ordered. The external camera turned, showing empty space. Stars twinkled in the distance. Nothing else. But then something strange happened at the edge of the screen. A faint blur. Like space bending inward. Jonah stepped closer. Did you see that? Something moved. Dresden swallowed. Captain, the gravitational readings just spiked. The blur appeared again, growing clearer. It looked like a ripple in the air, like heat rising from desert ground, but in space, where heat mirages should not exist. The ripple stretched, twisted, then snapped back like elastic being pulled. Mara whispered, It's trying to form. The ripple bulged outward. Space bent like liquid. Darkness thickened in one small patch of the stars. Then it vanished. Everyone held their breath. Jonah's hands tightened around the railing. I don't like this. It's playing with us. Holt stood still, staring at the blank screen. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his voice steady. We need more data. I want all power to scanners. If something is out there, we will know. The crew worked quickly, running enhanced scans, overlaying gravitational maps, comparing shifts in spatial curvature. The room buzzed with quiet tension. Then Mara's console beeped again, loud, sharp. "Captain," she said. The anomaly just reappeared, distance 20 kilometers, closing fast. The external camera zoomed in. The ripple grew into something larger, something massive. Space twisted around it like a whirlpool, pulling starlight into spirals. The shape inside the distortion was unclear. Gray. Shadowy. Shifting. It looked like a creature trying to force itself into normal space, but struggling. Like reality itself resisted its entry. Jonah stepped back unconsciously. What? What is that? Dresden checked his scanner. Its mass is enormous. But it's not fully material. It's phasing. Like the recordings from the Grace. The creature pushed again. Space rippled violently around it. A low hum filled the bridge, vibrating in their bones. "Captain," Mara said, voice trembling. "It's matching our course." Holt felt the weight of every eye on him. He needed to stay calm. Raise shields. Prepare evasive maneuver. Gamma 9. The ship shifted smoothly, changing direction. But the distortion followed. Holt clenched his jaw. So it's hunting us. The distortion grew brighter, sharper. Something inside it slammed against the barrier of reality, sending another ripple through space. Then, for just a second, the creature's form appeared. A massive silhouette. Too many limbs. A body too long to be supported by bones. A head shaped like a sweeping blade. Its eyes glowed faintly blue, but not like real eyes, more like distant stars shining through a veil. Then the creature vanished again, slipping back into distortion. The bridge alarm blared. "Captain," Mara shouted. "It's accelerating. It's coming toward our hull." "Brace," Holt ordered. The ship shook violently as something huge brushed its side. The metal screamed for a moment. Lights flickered. Panels rattled, but nothing broke through. Not yet. The creature scraped past the hull, leaving deep marks, long, claw-like tears that made Holt's heart stop. It was the same mark pattern from the Grace. Dresden's face was pale. "It's testing us. Studying us. The same way it did them." Holt steadied himself. "We will not let it board us." 4. He turned to Mara. "Prepare slipstream jump. Now." Mara's eyes widened. "Captain, if we jump while something is phasing into us..." "I know," Holt said. "But if we don't, it will tear us apart." She nodded quickly and began the jump sequence. The ship's engines powered up, glowing brighter. The distortion outside flexed and twisted, as if angered. The creature appeared again. Half-formed, giant claws stretching toward the ship. Jonah shouted, "It's going to try to come through the hull." Holt raised his voice. "Initiate jump." The slipstream drive activated. A burst of blue-white light consumed the ship, and reality folded around them. The creature roared, though no air carried the sound, and the distortion snapped violently. The Resolute vanished into slipstream. Everything turned into streaks of color. Silence returned. For a few long moments, no one spoke. Holt waited until the ship stabilized before he released a slow breath. "Report." Mara checked her console. "We got away, I think." No sign of gravitational disturbance. Jonah scanned the hull damage. Shields held, but barely. If that thing had been fully inside reality. Dresden rubbed his forehead, trembling slightly. "Captain, that creature followed the Grace across slipstream. It may follow us too." Holt already knew that. He could feel it in the tightness of his chest. "This is no longer a simple investigation," he said quietly. "This is a warning." He looked at his crew, each pale, exhausted, and shaken. "We need to understand what it wants," he said, "and we need to learn how to fight it." The ship continued through slipstream, glowing faintly as it traveled across the void. But Holt couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching them, following them, waiting for the moment to strike again. The slipstream journey felt longer than usual. Even though the Resolute moved at speeds faster than light, everyone sensed a strange tension in the air. It was as if the ship itself feared something following behind, something pressing against the thin walls of reality. Every time the engines hummed or the lights flickered, crew members flinched, expecting the creature to appear again. Captain Aaron Holt stayed awake through the entire transition, standing near the command deck with his hands clasped behind his back. His mind replayed the image of the shadow creature again and again, the way its limbs twisted, the way its form shook the fabric of space, the way its claws scraped the hull with terrible strength. It wasn't just a beast from deep space. It was something greater, something that did not fully belong to any known dimension. Mara approached quietly. She looked tired but alert. "Captain," she said softly, "we will exit slipstream in 5 minutes." Holt nodded. "Any sign of distortion inside the stream?" "None," she replied. "But that means nothing. The thing could be waiting outside." Holt knew she was right. The creature followed the Grace for weeks, maybe months. It learned. It stalked. It attacked when the crew was weakest. It was patient, and patience in a predator was more terrifying than speed or strength. Jonah entered next, holding a tablet filled with hull scans. "Damage is worse than we thought," he said. "Those marks go through metal layers. If the creature had hit us with just a little more force, it would have breached the hull." Dresden joined them too. He rubbed his eyes and exhaled shakily. "I've analyzed gravitational residue from the creature. It's not just bending space. It's feeding on it. It drinks energy from the fabric of reality, like we breathe air." Holt looked at him sharply. "Explain." Dresden swallowed. "Those distortions aren't accidents. The creature creates them. It pulls strength from them. When it gets close to our hull, reality thins, like it wants to enter fully." Holt understood immediately. "So the more we run, the more it learns our pattern." "Yes," Dresden said quietly. "Running forever might make us easier to predict." Before Holt could respond, the console alarm beeped sharply. "Exit in 30 seconds, Mara said. Everyone held their breath. When slipstream dissolved into normal space, the Resolute emerged into the wide darkness of a quiet region. Stars glittered silently. No planets. No stations. No nearby ships. Just a lonely stretch of cosmic emptiness. Jonah scanned the surrounding area. No sign of the creature. Dresden checked his readings. "Gravitational levels normal." "Good," Holt said. "Maintain distance from the Grace's last position. And continue monitoring." But even as he spoke, a strange feeling pressed against his thoughts. It wasn't physical. It was instinct. A silent alarm inside his mind. Something wasn't right. It was too quiet. Too peaceful. The crew spread out across the deck, each person working with quiet focus. For a few minutes, the tension eased. Then the lights dimmed, just for a moment, but long enough to send chills through everyone. Mara's console beeped. "Captain, we just had a fluctuation in the energy grid." Jonah turned. "Was that the creature?" Dresden checked rapidly. "No gravitational spike, no distortion. This looks like an internal issue." Holt frowned. "Check the power lines." Something might have overloaded. Dresden nodded and hurried to the engineering deck with a small team. Mara and Jonah remained on the bridge, scanning in every direction. Minutes passed. Dresden's voice came through the comm. "Captain, I'm at the junction node. There's a strange energy signature here. It doesn't look like any malfunction I've seen." Holt straightened. "Describe it." "It's like something pressed against the inside of the power grid," Dresden said, "almost like a static imprint. But energy doesn't leave shapes like this. Unless..." He stopped. Holt waited. "Unless what?" "Dresden?" Dresden spoke slowly. "Unless something passed through the circuitry while we were in slipstream." Mara froze. "Captain, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Jonah muttered. No. That's impossible. The creature was outside. How could it enter? His words were cut off by a sudden, sharp alarm. Mara's console glowed bright red. Captain! We have a dimensional fluctuation inside the ship. Holt's heart dropped. Where? Deck 4, Mara shouted. Engineering hallway. Dresden cursed through the comm. Captain! Something is forming here. The air is freezing. Holt drew his sidearm, not that a human weapon could truly harm the creature, but it was better than nothing. I'm on my way. Mara. Jonah. With me. They ran through the corridors, their footsteps echoing loudly. The ship's artificial gravity hummed beneath their boots. The walls flickered with static lights, pulsing like a heartbeat. When they reached Deck 4, a cold wind brushed past them. It shouldn't have been possible. Air circulation didn't create winds strong enough to feel like that. And cold, real cold, only meant one thing. Something was bending reality again. Far down the hallway, a faint ripple shimmered near the ceiling. The air twisted like clear water being stirred by invisible hands. Electrical sparks flickered along the walls. Dresden stood near a junction box, eyes wide, breath fogging in front of him. Captain, it's here. The ripple grew, stretching like a shadow pulled into the shape of a wide, jagged crack. Holt could feel the wrongness radiating from it, the kind that made skin crawl and stomach twist. Jonah stepped forward. It's trying to enter fully. The ripple pulsed and expanded. A claw slid through. It looked nothing like a normal claw. It was long, black, almost smoke-like, but sharp enough to cut steel. It twisted in unnatural angles, searching the air like a blind hand feeling for prey. Mara whispered. It found us. The claw scraped the wall, leaving a glowing scar that sizzled with energy. Another ripple shook the hallway. A second claw pushed through, then a third, each larger and more twisted than the last. Dresden backed away, terror in his eyes. It's stabilizing. If we don't disrupt it now, it will come through completely. Holt raised his weapon. Aim for the distortion now. They fired. Blue pulses of energy struck the ripple, shaking it. The claws recoiled, hissing with strange light. But the effect was small, barely enough to slow the creature. Jonah grabbed a heavy panel from the wall and threw it toward the distortion. The metal impacted with a loud crack and vanished into the ripple like it had fallen into water. It's not stopping, Jonah shouted. The ripple swelled again, widening into a massive, jagged opening. Holt could see the creature's face beginning to form those strange, star-like eyes glowing through the dimensional veil. Mara, Holt yelled. Emergency power surge protocol. Overload the grid right here. Mara sprinted toward the wall panel and tore it open. I need 10 seconds. We don't have 10 seconds, Dresden yelled. The creature pushed again. Its long, distorted head began emerging through the opening. Its form was not fully material, shimmering like liquid shadow. But its presence alone made the air tremble. Holt fired again and again, desperately buying time. Jonah rammed a shock baton into one of the claws, sending electric current through it. The creature recoiled, letting out a silent ripple of anger. Mara shouted, "Overload ready." "Do it," Holt ordered. She slammed her hand on the trigger. The lights exploded with brilliance. The hallway surged with white-hot electricity. Sparks flew across the walls. The ripple shuddered violently as the energy blast hit it. The claws writhed, twisting and distorting, pulling away like burning paper. The creature jerked backward, its emerging head dissolving into mist. The dimensional tear snapped like a broken string. Then everything went quiet. The hallway was dark except for flickering lights. Smoke drifted upward in slow waves. Holt, Mara, Jonah, and Dresden stood frozen, catching their breath. Jonah finally broke the silence. Did we stop it? Dresden shook his head slowly. No. We just forced it back, but it knows how to enter the ship now. Holt knew Dresden was right. They hadn't defeated anything. They had only survived one moment. The creature was learning. testing, trying new ways to reach them. Mara stood up, sweat dripping down her forehead. Captain, it came inside Slipstream, which means nowhere is safe anymore. Holt took a long breath, fighting the weight in his chest. We need answers. And we need them fast. Folder on. Dresden hesitated before saying, Captain, there's something else. The creature wasn't trying to attack me. It was reaching toward the power grid, almost like it was searching for something. Jonah frowned. What could it want from our systems? Dresden swallowed. Maybe the same thing it wanted from the Grace. Silence returned. Holt turned slowly. The logs mentioned the Grace found a quantum seed, a prototype wormhole stabilizer. Mara's eyes widened. If the creature was following the Grace for that device, and if it survived, Jonah finished the thought grimly. It may think we have it now, Dresden nodded slowly, and it may not stop until it gets it. Holt's jaw tightened. Then we need to find out what that seed really does, and why the creature wants it. He turned toward the command deck. Everyone, back to your stations. We're not running anymore. We're going to understand this thing. As the crew moved, each step felt heavier. The creature had crossed into their ship, into their world. It had tested their defenses, and learned how to slip through metal and reality itself. And Holt understood something chilling. The creature wasn't just hunting. It was evolving, watching, learning, preparing. And the next time it came, it wouldn't be testing. It would be attacking. The sea was calm that morning, with sunlight bouncing off the gentle waves and painting them silver. Captain Ryland stood at the bow of the Starbound, squinting toward the horizon. A strange feeling had gripped him ever since the radio had picked up a faint signal last night. A signal from a ship that had been missing for decades. A ship with a name spoken with both fear and respect. The Dauntless. Ryland had heard the stories as a child. The Dauntless had left the human colony on Ceres Prime 40 years ago. Venturing into the uncharted zones of the Vera Nebula, it had never returned. Many believed it was lost to the void, claimed by the strange gravitational storms or the unknown creatures that lurked in the darkness between stars. But now, its signal was clear, and it was moving steadily toward human territory. The crew of the Starbound were tense but excited. Many of them had lost relatives who had been on the Dauntless, or had grown up hearing stories of its disappearance. No one could explain why the ship was returning, or how it had survived so long in the hostile emptiness of space. As the hours passed, the signal grew stronger, and a shadow appeared on the long-range sensors. It was the Dauntless. But it was unlike any ship the humans had ever seen. Its massive hull was scarred, and long rips ran across its sails, metallic extensions designed to catch solar winds. The tiers looked jagged, almost as if claws had shredded them. No one knew what could have done such a thing. The Starbound moved closer, and Ryland ordered all crew members to prepare for docking. A sense of unease settled over the bridge. The readings were odd, life signs were faint, almost non-existent, and yet there were signs of recent activity. The hull's energy signature suggested that some power source was still functioning, keeping the ship alive despite the obvious damage. As they approached, small lights flickered on the Dauntless. At first, they looked like normal beacon lights, but as the Starbound drew closer, the crew realized they were patterns, messages, maybe. Ryland instructed the communications officer to try to decipher them. The messages were fragmented, broken sequences of numbers and letters, but one pattern repeated over and over. Beware the claws. Beware the dark. Survive. Ryland frowned. Whoever sent this, it wasn't us, he said quietly, and whoever they are, they're warning us. The docking procedure was tense. The Dauntless's outer hull was badly damaged, and the ship's thrusters struggled to hold position. Finally, the Starbound's boarding ramp connected, and a small team suited up to enter. Ryland went with them, feeling a mixture of dread and curiosity. Inside, the ship was eerily silent. The corridors were dimly lit, and the smell of burnt circuits, and oxidized metal hung in the air. The crew moved carefully, scanning every corner. Signs of struggle were everywhere. Broken consoles, scorched panels, and strange claw marks along the walls. Whatever had attacked the Dauntless, it had done so with incredible strength. They reached the central control room, and the view was even more disturbing. The bridge was empty. Chairs lay overturned, and monitors flashed with errors. But then, Rylan noticed something unusual. A logbook still active on the captain's console. It displayed a recorded message from Captain Celine, the original commander of the Dauntless. Her voice was faint but steady. "To anyone who finds this, we were not alone. Something followed us through the nebula, something ancient. We tried to fight it, tried to hide, but it is relentless. The crew, many, are lost. If you find this, do not approach the ship without extreme caution. We do not understand what it wants, but it takes with its claws. It waits. It watches." The message ended abruptly, leaving the room in silence. Rylan felt a chill run down his spine. The idea that something could have survived in the void, untouched and waiting, seemed impossible. Yet the evidence was clear. The torn sails, the claw marks, the eerie message, it all pointed to an intelligence beyond their understanding. The boarding team explored further, finding supplies that were surprisingly fresh. Food packs were intact, water recyclers functioning, and even some of the navigation systems still operational. It was as if the ship had been maintained by some unseen hand, or perhaps by sheer luck. But then they found the crew quarters. The bodies of the original crew were gone. Only personal belongings remained, scattered across the rooms. Holographic diaries flickered in the corners, showing fragments of daily life. In each, the crew spoke of strange sightings, shadows moving across the corridors, sudden malfunctions, whispers in the air when no one was near. Rylan realized this ship had endured more than just physical damage. Its crew had faced something that had tested their minds as much as their bodies. As night fell outside the Dauntless, Rylan and his team gathered in the main hall. They debated what to do next. Bringing the ship back to a colony would risk exposure to whatever had attacked it. Leaving it in space might allow others to stumble upon it unknowingly. Then, the first sign of movement occurred. A low rumble shook the floor. The crew froze, scanning the dim corridors. Shadows moved in unnatural patterns, stretching across the walls and disappearing before they could be fully seen. A soft scratching echoed from the ceiling like nails across metal. Rylan held up a hand. "Everyone, stay calm. We don't know what it is yet. It may not even see us." But the sense of being watched grew. The ship seemed alive in a way no machine should be, responding to their presence, shifting, creaking as if to communicate or to warn. Hours passed. The crew set up temporary stations and tried to gather as much data as possible. Every log, every console, every reading suggested that the ship had survived through extraordinary resilience. But the warnings from Captain Celine echoed in their minds. The claws, the dark, the unknown, it was still out there, somewhere. Finally, exhaustion forced them to rest. Rylan took the last watch, staring out at the void through the shattered sails. The stars shone brightly, but a darkness lingered at the edges of vision, a sense of something waiting, patient, and intelligent. He knew that this was only the beginning. The Dauntless had returned, but it had brought its secrets with it, and somewhere among the void and the torn metal, something waited for the humans who dared to follow its path.